so many issues with, like, I would use a reticule on an area and stuff would get highlighted and it wouldn't hit that target. Like, the reticule was not accurate, which was a huge problem. Never had that issue in DOS 1 and 2 when aiming targeting reticules. So that was an issue. There was, the elevation thing. Any house that had multiple levels was a nightmare because you didn't have a button to make your camera go up or down the levels. So, yeah, pathing issues. There was quite a few things. It was really, really good. I'm going to quit out of this because of the loud music. It was really, really good. But yeah, Act 3 definitely, you could tell, had more issues. I was reminded of the launch of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, where Act 3 had a lot more bugs than the early acts, because Act 3 never hit early access. Not as many people had tested it. Only their staff had tested it, not the general public. So there was a lot of issues there. There were certain times when something would happen and just not make any sense. In the final boss fight, some of you, those of you who were here for the last hour, on one of the attempts, all the platforms got destroyed. Like, the boss summoned the orbs, and then they just instantly detonated and killed us, instead of summon orb, wait around, then they explode. So we had a big bug that wiped the party in the final boss fight, and then a reload, that bug didn't happen. Then we did an ending where Gale sacrificed himself to save the world, and Gale was talking with us at the end. So, like, we even got ending cinematics crisscross. So anyway, it's not perfect. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, this game is, the Jesus of games. It's perfect, and I won't hear any different. It's not. It's very good. It does have some bits that need to be, ironed out. It absolutely has some bits that need to be ironed out. But it's a very cool game. It is based on D&D 5e. Of all the D&D versions, I dislike that one the most. Of all the D&D versions I'm fluent with, I dislike 5e the most. Like, Mage Armor is lame, Barkskin is lame, Orb of Fire. Like, Moonbeam does damage when it hits, and then does damage at the start of the target's turn in it. Giant Flaming Boulder can crash into things, but it can miss. And then when they end their turn next to the boulder, they take damage. So if you've got target and boulder, it's like miss, and then they move away. Miss, they move away. And they can literally go move, shoot you, and never, ever take damage from it. So certain spells, like the Insect Cloud and is like that. I started to say Hunger Fadar, but no, Hunger Fadar hits at the beginning and end. So there's some like AoE spells that feel like they work the way they're supposed to. They do damage at the start of the target's round, and others that do damage at the end of the round, so they're infinitely worse. And they don't say that on the tooltip. You have to figure that out. So I figured out through trial and error, like, Cloud of Daggers works at the start of the target's turn. Fire Orb and Insect Cloud work at the end of the target's turn. So they can just move out of them. So those are bad. So some of those skills, I really hate the versions of them in 5th edition. But it was still a lot of fun. It was absolutely still a lot of fun. Playtime, the amount of time you get for your money, the graphics, the storytelling, the music, all were just phenomenal. They were very, very good. Trying to think if I had anything else touched on. The storytelling. Dude, I thought when we got to the brain room, that was the end. And then it burst up into the city, and I was like, oh my god, there's more. And there was like another few hours after that. I thought I was at the final boss battle hours before I was at the final boss battle. So that was crazy. I watched tutorials on 5e, and my guess is lame a lot of times means no longer stacks nerf. So what it is, Caught Metroskin, granted, I grant you, this is just my opinion, and not everyone will agree with me. Let's talk, it's a Barkskin. Barkskin, in this game, it increases your armor class up to 16 if you're below 16 armor. So if you're already above that, turning your skin as hard as bark does nothing for you, which doesn't make any sense. It should still work. However, in older D&D, previous to 5e, it gave +2 to armor class, and it stacked. So, if you had 16 armor, you'd go to 18. It wasn't limited to 16. Mage armor is the same thing. Mage armor increases your base armor to 13, but if you're above that, it does nothing. So it's very similar. So in now it only helps versus armorless characters, whereas before it was like another layer of protection. Like if you get hit and they go through your leather armor, you've got bark underneath. It still made sense, but yeah, it did not stack anymore. So I had been planning on using that on my ranger for more armor because he was tanking, and I was really sad to see what they had done to it. But again, that's not a Larian thing. That's a 5th edition thing. What else? I think that's about it. So yeah, even despite the fact that it's based on my least favorite rule set, I love the game, which I think gives huge props to it. I was watching some YouTube videos for tips and stuff on Baldur's Gate 3, and I learned a lot just watching some videos. Like, did you guys know if you stack 3 crates on top of each other and you stand on top of them, you always have the high ground advantage when firing a bow. So there is a strategy to carry 3 giant crates in one of your character's inventory, and anytime you're about to go into a fight, plop, 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 have the archer climb up on top and shoot down, and they have advantage on every shot. Another thing, you could take a backpack, fill it with bombs, like elixir, like the Molotov cocktail stuff and stuff like that, and throw the backpack at an enemy, and it's like a satchel charge. If you throw it far enough, the backpack breaks on contact with the ground, and all those items spill on the ground. And then you shoot them with a flaming arrow or fireball, and then there will be an additional explosion for every item that was in the back. So you can make like a boss killer bag, which, I could have used that on the final boss, but it would have been nasty. It would have been really nasty. So that's another crazy trick that really smells of Divinity Original Sin, but it works in this as well. Finding cheese strats for bosses is my favorite part of the game. I prefer a long fight versus a boss. Like I definitely like just watching clips of people one-shotting a boss, but it's not something I like to do. It's just like seeing Gale just win it instantly. I'm like, okay, that was neat. Now let's see what it's really like, and going through it. And plus we did it on Tactician. I would not mind seeing them add a honor mode. Divinity Original Sin 2 had an honor mode. Now honor mode was basically, it was the hardest difficulty, but you also got one save file. So you could reload if you were quick before dying, but you had one save file, and anytime any character died, it saved over the save file. So that was your new oldest point. So you could have some characters die and the survivors run away from battle and then come back and try to revive them. But if the whole party wiped, it was game over. And I beat Divinity Original Sin 2 on that difficulty. I would not mind doing that at Baldur's Gate, but at the moment, the only way to do that is with like a self-imposed rule set. But you really have to know, to do a run like that, you have to know about the cheesy stuff in the game. Like, for example, if you talk back to the Githyanki goddess, she will just kill you instantly. It just says game over. It just flat out says game over. So like, if you didn't know that, then that would just be the end of your run if you were doing that kind of thing. So you have to know about that. You should play the Neverwinter Nights games after Soto. Dude, I would totally be okay with that. Let me tell you what's going through my head right now. This is like reignited this and the recent playthrough we did of the Dragon Age Origins and 2. I want to finish my playthrough of the whole Dragon Age games. I want to play Pathfinder Kingmaker now that they've had time to work out the bugs. When I played Kingmaker, it was right when it launched, and it was super, super buggy. I did beat it. I did have fun, but it was a mess. I would love to play Kingmaker again with y'all. I would love to do another playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 Evil. Neverwinter Nights, I love. I own Neverwinter Nights Gold Edition and Hordes of the Underdark. I played those a lot when I was younger. Would love to do that if people were interested in that. Now, I am talking about Neverwinter Nights, not Neverwinter the MMO. They're very different. That's like, for those who don't know, that is like comparing Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim to Elder Scrolls Online. It's completely different. Like, granted, there's a lot less cinematics and stuff, but Neverwinter Nights is more similar to Baldur's Gate than it is the Neverwinter MMO because of like the dice rolling and stuff. Dark Age playthrough, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love the Neverwinter games. Let's see, trying to think of what else. Yeah, okay. I think that's it. All in all, oh my god, fantastic game. They really did a great job with this. It's awesome. And, there's a lot of videos on my YouTube feed right now about people talking about those tweets. Did you guys see those tweets where someone said, please don't expect games like this to become the new norm or something like that. But to be fair, he said it in a very fair way, because he was talking about the hurdles that Larian had to go through to get here. They had 6 years to develop this game while not releasing other titles, so they had a lot of funding and time to work on it. And he was making very fair statements. Like, you wouldn't expect a company that made like Undertale to put out something like this. They can't afford that. They can't afford to not release a product for 6 years while they were paying 400 employees. However, there was a lot of developers on Twitter that responded to that. They're like, yeah, this is, one of them said Rockstar level nonsense. And it got to the point where like the meaning of the original post was lost, and all the people that were like jumping on the bandwagon were just like angry developers. And some of them worked at Blizzard, some of them worked at Rockstar. And it's like, okay, now you guys don't have an excuse. You guys have been releasing these Battle Pass games with, you know, subscription fees and DLCs and stuff like that. You know, it's like, you guys have just been scummy. That's why you haven't done this. But it's, I've seen a lot of talk that if Mass Effect came out today, the developers would say it's Rockstar level nonsense. So I will also say, you know, granted, you know, this isn't the same as the games that came out when I was a kid, but it rings the same bell. You know, when I was younger, I would go to the store and I'd get a game, you know, Oblivion, whatever, off the shelf. I'd read the back of the box. If it looked cool, I'd buy it, take it home. Yeah, we couldn't, like, there wasn't much on Google about it. I'd take it home, install it, and it was a full, complete game, because they did not have the ability to do day one patches. It had to be a full, complete game or they'd get the script suit out of them. And this is up there. This feels like a complete, finished game that's not trying to nickel and dime you. They've not announced any DLCs that I know of. There's no battle pass. There's no monthly subscription fee. Just none of that stuff. It's just a full, complete, solid title. Here you go. Have fun. Go nuts. And oh, you can play it offline too. It doesn't require an ongoing internet connection. Holy crap. Oh my god. It's like ever since Diablo 3, every game, even if you're playing it single player, requires an internet connection. So if your internet hiccups, you might die. Like, I hate that too. So yeah. I love both this game and the fact that it's like reminding people like what games could be. Another really funny thing I saw recently was if this game was released in Japan, because of like all like the seducing and stuff you could do with everyone, the general public would not be nearly as accepting of it. Because then it would just be like an H game. But because we could sleep with bears and it doesn't look like anime, we're like, yeah, no, this is great. Yeah, this is fantastic. Okay, not selling dies in the cash shop. Yeah, hi. Oh my god, he's so needy right now. I really hate that some people say that aspect of VG3 shouldn't be standard and what to expect of the upcoming games. Maybe a new idea guide on when to use which booster in Guild Wars 2. I save them for the day that never comes. Schoonon, I'm the same. I do have a guide on condensing boosters. Like you can turn them into an item where they can all stack together, or a lot of them can stack together. If you search my YouTube channel for the word booster, you'll find it. But yeah, all right, so I guess that is it. That brings us to the end of our first playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. We did it on the top difficulty. We lost Shadow, what's her name, but everyone else lived. And yeah, I think my next playthrough, which I don't know if I'll start it today or tomorrow or soon, but my next playthrough, I'd like to do a Dark Urge Evil playthrough. I want to have a Druid on the team because I freaking loved that. I want to have some kind of heavy hitter strength character. I had a lot of problems having my only strength character be someone who is strength when in shapeshift, because while in shapeshift, they couldn't interact with objects that required strength checks. So that ended up backfiring some. In combat, it was fine. But like breaking down walls or things like that, it was not fine. So some kind of strength character, maybe like an Oathbreaker Paladin. I want to have like maybe like a war. My character might be like an evil war priest cleric, a druid in the party, and then one more person, probably an arcane something, wizard, sorcerer, warlock, something like that. What was his party composition for the Tactician run? Main character was a ranger with as high armor class as possible, so he would basically run in. He could literally just tank a dragon on Tactician for a very long time. So that was my main character. Also, he had a pet ravens that would run around blinding people, and he could even help with healing a bit with good berries in between the fights. So I loved my ranger character. He was wonderful. Then I had a Spore Druid, which was like, she was originally the emergency healer, but then I found out she could actually dish out a lot of damage just with one spell slot. A Druid can Moonbeam targets for 10 turns. I love those spells. Moonbeam, Sunbeam, the ones where every turn you can reposition it with the same skill slot. I love those spells. So where like a paladin can dish out stupid damage, but you have to like long rest a lot because you can just burn all your spell slots in a single battle. Cloud Kill, yes, Cloud Kill, you can reposition it because like you can channel like Cloud of Daggers is a phenomenal damaging spell. I think it's guaranteed damage unless they're immune to piercing. I think it does not have a save, but you can't reposition it. So like the repositioning ones, my favorite. Cloud Kill, Moonbeam, things like that. So and then in a pinch, the Spore Druid also had emergency heals, and she had like plus 48 temporary hit points because of her Spore Shield thing. So I had the Ranger Tank, the Spore Druid, then I had a Circle of the Moon Druid, which was all about shapeshifting. So she spent a lot of time in like Owlbear, Sabertooth Tiger, or Elemental forms. And if she got beaten out of the shapeshift, she was a full health druid and she would start moonbeaming too. And then my last person, I changed a lot. It was a warlock for part of the playthrough, it was a sorcerer for part of the playthrough, and it was a wizard for part of the playthrough. At the end he was a necromancy wizard, and the ghouls were very powerful. One of the final 3 bosses, I paralyzed it with ghoul. The ghoul claws can paralyze. I paralyzed it for 4 of its turns. So like 80% of its life, it was paralyzed. So that was crazy. But all the undead disappear when you long rest, and you have to find new corpses to make more, which is tedious. So pros and cons to the necromancy wizard. But it was really cool. I loved having an arcane person in the Bard Wizard hybrid for the extra short rest, the Bardic Inspiration on dice rolls, and all of the counter spells having him there brought. Because like if you bring a warlock, you have 2 counter spells and then you're out. However, you do get them back on short rest. But if he does like Cloud of Daggers or something, that's one of your counter spells because he has so few spell slots. But yeah, he was awesome. I don't know what I'm going to do for the arcane on the next playthrough. I could do like a warlock bard hybrid, and then he would use the warlock spells and then get bonus short rest. Because it feels like the wizard, you have to long rest way often. Same with a paladin. But it feels like the druid, especially the shapeshifter druid, because so much of the power comes from shapeshifts, which are restored on short rest. The druid, based on shapeshifting, and the warlock, whose spells recharge on short rest, they're good for the long haul. They don't need to long rest until they're out of short rest. So you could you could do some kind of hybrid there. I'm not sure. Sorelock hybrid big damage, maybe. The one thing to keep in mind is a warlock at level 5, his Eldritch Blast fires 2 beams. At level 10, his Eldritch Blast fires 3 beams. So if you do a hybrid where the warlock has less than 10 levels at the end, he's going to do 2 beams instead of 3, which is a huge difference in damage. But it depends on what you're going for. But yeah, you can store corpses in your stash in camp. That's genius. Oh yeah, that's true. I had Shadowheart in a box. However, it was difficult to carry corpses around for the few times I had to because, again, no strength character. So need to figure that out. Oathbreaker Paladin or something. Fighter Barbarian, I don't know. But yeah, all right, chat. Again, that was Baldur's Gate 3. That is the end of our first playthrough. This was a phenomenal game. Thank you guys for joining me. And we are going to end the final YouTube episode of this playlist here.